Social Pulse Weekly, brought to you by Agorapulse. Discussing this week's hottest topics and latest developments in social media marketing. With your host, Jennifer Watson. Here's Social Pulse Weekly.
Hey everyone, and happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us for this extra special Social Pulse Weekly. I'm so excited to geek out with you today and actually bring on someone who's pretty darn awesome. Many of you may know her, and if you don't know her, you need to know her. You need to follow her because she is absolutely brilliant. But with that said, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. And for those of you watching, let us know who you are, where you're watching us from. And the question we have for everyone today is, what is one word that describes you the best? I want to know that one word that describes you the best. I've been thinking about this a lot today, trying to figure out what my one word is. And I think it's passionate, but I think there's so much more. I have drive too, and I'm very fierce. Like I go for my goals very fiercely. So I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. But if you have that one word that describes you the best, please let us know. And for those of you watching us for the first time, this is Social Pulse Weekly, and we geek out about all things social media. We do a little bit of the news, trivia, and we geek out with a special guest every single week. And we're trying to add value and give you education and provide some exciting new ideas that you can bring to your strategy immediately. And so with that said, I want to bring on our guest because I'm so excited she's here. This is Amy. Oh my gosh, Amy, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for helping me end the week with a huge smile on my face. This is awesome. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh. So if you don't know Amy, she is sunshine and she is one of the nicest people in the world. And she also won our trip to Paris last year at Social Media Marketing World. So if you don't know and you weren't there, you missed out because Agorapulse was at Social Media Marketing World and we gave away a trip to Paris for 2 people. Now, unfortunately, COVID happened right after that. So Amy hasn't had a chance to go to Paris. And actually our main office and our only office is in Paris. And so she was going to visit the Paris office, tour around, and kind of do a whole bunch of things. So, Amy, I hope you get to take that trip soon. But I do want us to give a special shout out to everyone in the audience. We've got Deb Mitchell, our amazing community manager. We've got George. George, how are you? Trisha from across the pond. Trisha, how are you? Oh my gosh, we are your Agorapulse family. We're so excited you're joining us. And for everyone else watching as well, please give us a shout out and share with us that one word that describes you the best. Now, I want to geek out about how amazing Amy is really quick. So I'm going to pull her full screen because that's just what I do because she's pretty awesome. So Amy created Capitalized Social Media after starting a coupon and deal blog, which happened soon after quitting her 14-year corporate career to be a stay-at-home mom. Now, instead of motivating high-performing sales teams to reach their revenue and career goals, she motivates life and business coaches to gain visibility and connect with their ideal clients so they can reach their revenue and business goals. So I love this. I love how you were in corporate and then you decided to be a stay-at-home mom and you became an entrepreneur and you're doing so many amazing things and inspiring so many people. So first of all, I have to ask you, Amy, I ask everyone this, how did you get to where you are today? Just describe in a little bit more detail about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I worked for Verizon Wireless actually, and I started there when I was just 20 years old. And it was like that first job where I was like, I'm going to go, figure out what I want to be when I grow up while I work at this customer service job basically. And, year after year, new opportunities came up. It was at the very beginning when all these companies were merging together to become Verizon. And I just saw so many opportunities. So I went to school to get my business degree and then I just continued along the path. And actually, I won a trip to Europe. Quite honestly, it's kind of ironic that we're talking about that, but I won a trip to Europe because I was in the top 2% of the sales in the company. And it was a really, really neat experience over the 14 years. But when I, met my husband and we're starting our family, and I just decided I wanted to stay at home and not work anymore. So I quit my career and, was stay-at-home mom like almost instantaneously. And that's when I figured out that I just didn't actually want to stay at home all the time, but I did want to stay at home. I just wanted to do something else. I had been so busy and just so active in my career. I wanted to do something else. So different from some people that may, you may have wanted to be an entrepreneur for your, I don't know about you, Jennifer, some people watching, had been dreaming about being an entrepreneur for ever and ever. Like that was never on my radar. It was never something I considered, but I was looking for opportunities that I could, stay at home and kind of do my own thing, manage my own schedule, and still have the time with my son. That's when I started my business. And so I started the coupon blog first, and then did that for a couple of years. And then that's when Facebook and Instagram started growing. And I thought, oh, I can talk to people on Facebook and Instagram, and then I can bring them over to my blog and get more traffic on my blog. Shout out to Mike Alton. And that's where I really started. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I was like, ooh, I like this social media stuff. I like being able to talk to people and interact, and I could really use it as a business tool. And that's when it happened, is when I realized that I could help other business owners then grow their business using these social media tools. And that's where it began. So that's kind of my story.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I think that's so amazing. And it's something that I think a lot of moms and even maybe parents in general, starting a family, you realize that, you put your kids first, now, not really yourself first, and you got to take care of them. It's a whole different set of responsibilities, mindset, and everything. And I think a lot of moms feel for you where they want to stay at home, but they still want to work or just have something on the side. And I love that you actually took the steps to make it happen, because I think so many want to, but they're too nervous, they're too scared for some reason or another, and they just don't actually push the button. But you did, which is so amazing, and you've been so successful. And so I would love to know, just for anyone right now who's thinking of starting a side hustle, because as of right now, many people have started side hustles during COVID, during the pandemic, and have been very successful. The reason for that is because the world has been completely disrupted. The pandemic hasn't just impacted a city or a state or a country, it's the entire world. And when something like that happens, people are more likely to try something different or something new, because if things are going great, why change your routine? Because things are going good, but the whole world has been disrupted. And so a lot of people have found success in different ways and opportunities. So you got to search for them, but they're out there. So I would love for you, Amy, to give some tips on people who are thinking of starting a side hustle, already have one, but maybe they're in the early stages, or they've had a business for a couple of years. But what are your top 3 tips for someone who wants to start a business that you're just like, man, I wish I'd done that, or I knew that earlier, or, for anyone who does, or tips that you've given to your friends, they need to make sure they do this first?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to start out with my word. You were saying at the beginning, you're asking for everyone's word. And I was like thinking. And while you were talking, it made me realize my word is perseverance. So when I set my mind on something, when I set a goal for myself, like this is what I want to do, I move out like every barrier and every block out of the way to make it happen. So that's something that I have kind of internally. And it's something that, if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, you're really trying to decide if that's something that you want to do, it's really almost necessary that you have that, because I would argue this is that any entrepreneur can be successful if you don't give up. Like there's a certain point where you just don't know what that next step is, and you just have to keep pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forward, and then it's eventually gonna work out. But there's guaranteed one way that it's not gonna work out is if you just quit. And that's the hard part, right? Is like you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business, and you don't have people you have community, but you don't have that, a boss telling you what to do, or that someone just giving you like that push forward. Like you really have to do that yourself. So I would say persistence, number 1, is key. And along with that, never giving up. Now I'm also in the process, and I have been in the while, of writing a book to also encourage other entrepreneurs to really stay on that path. And that's persistence is one of the things, and people is another thing, community, having people around you. And those are like the 2 main things that you want to have when you're an entrepreneur, is the strive just to never give up. And then also the people and the community around you that will support you you when you have a rough day, when you have, something where you're just like, I don't know what direction to go with this, because you can really get stuck. And if you get stuck and you don't have that community to support you or to kind of bring you back up and re-encourage you, then you can get stuck and stay there for a long time. But with entrepreneurship, it's always important to just keep moving forward. And yes, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, but it's necessary to keep going, right? And that's where a lot of people that stop. That's where it can be easy to stop when you get to that point where you're like, oh gosh, like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like for me, a couple years ago, it was public speaking. Like I had, loads of experience in my corporate career, but when it came into entrepreneurship, I was like, oh, this is not about a different company. This is actually about me, and it's more personal. And I had a whole kind of like mindset change around it finally, where I was just like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go on camera. I'm going to get on stage, and I don't want to be nervous. And getting past that point is what pushed me to the next level. So keep going forward and just going towards your goals. I think there's 3 tips in there. There's probably more.
Yeah. No, there were. No, Amy, that's so awesome. And those are fantastic tips, because I think it is intimidating, right? And, you can't know if something's going to work unless you actually just try it, and some of the best inventors, entrepreneurs, business owners, they had a failing business or something else, but you just keep going. You try something different. Some of my friends that I see that have started their own business, they're always, innovating and changing, evolving as to what their clients' needs are and finding solutions for that. So I love that so much. I have to give a special shout out to Megan Powers, who is in the house. Megan, I am so excited you're here. I think, Megan, you're moving. I'm not sure if you're moving or not, and I may be wrong with that, but let us know I think Megan's in San Diego with you, but she may be moving somewhere. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely making that up, Megan. And I see that we've lost our feed in Social Pulse Community, our Facebook group. It doesn't look like we've lost it on the Facebook page, but we are live on my Facebook page, Top Social Media Strategies, and also on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. So if you're seeing that feed just dropped, feel free to watch this and continue watching on one of our other social channels. We've got Trisha, who said getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is super hard, but necessary to keep going. Yes, it is. Yes, absolutely. Trisha said support from your family, spouse, etc. helps a great deal. Any negativity in your home orbit is a challenge for sure. And I 1,000% agree. And Trisha, we love you so much. I need to have you on a live interview at some point, because she is our biggest super fan, supporter, and she is a strong member of the Agorapulse family. So I absolutely love that so much. And Megan said YouTube is now, so we're going. Good. Thank you, Megan. And I apologize about that. And I'm not sure why that dropped out, but we will figure it out on the backside. But with that said, I have another question for you. What is the biggest mistake you see your clients making, or people coming to you, Amy? Because usually when someone comes to you, they're just like, I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that. And you get to take a look at their social media strategy. What is the biggest mistake you see people and businesses making?
Yeah, definitely. They come to me going, oh gosh, there's all these different platforms, and where should I be? What should I be doing? Kind of like needing direction after a while of, not really having that direction and kind of just not getting results. And I really like to look at everything as like a holistic approach, look at all of what they're doing with email, with their website, with all of the social media channels, and kind of look at that big picture perspective and what they're doing, and then like how much time they're spending on it, right? Like there's a ton of different things that you can do, and there's a lot of different ways you can get distracted by all the social media platforms that come out, and the new ones. We got Clubhouse, and now there's Facebook Hotline, and there's all these other, audio channels and just social media channels that pop up that, as business owners, we think, oh gosh, like I should be there. As social media strategists, of course, we have to kind of dabble and see what it's all about. But like as a business owner, like you don't have time to do all of those things. And even as, marketers, we can spread ourselves thin trying to kind of keep up with all of the different platforms. But the biggest mistake is being too many places and spreading yourself thin, right? I always say if you don't have time to take to interact with your content, with your community after you create the content, then don't just put the content there. Like if you don't have the time to go into Instagram and interact with other people's content and, do some stories and kind of like be more interactive on that platform, like don't even bother with it. Like spend your time focusing on the platforms that you have the time. So start with, if they start with Facebook and then they have a Facebook group, like that's a lot to manage with a business page and a Facebook group, like stay there. And then once you get your strategy nailed down, then venture out and repurpose your content and kind of expand that way. But the first thing is like, oh, I need to be on social media. Let me do all of these things. And it's just not effective.
And so when people come to you, Amy, what is like the first thing that you do with a client? Do you kind of do an overhaul of their strategy or take a look at what they're doing? Or what kind of a reset do you take with your clients?
Yeah, the first thing I do is look at all of their platforms. They'll give me all of the social media handles. Let me see what you're doing on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever they are. I want to see all of it. And so I go into each platform or each profile, and then I'll look to see, if their profile is optimized and how often that they're creating content, what types of content that they're creating, and kind of analyze it from that, what kind of results they're getting from what I can tell, and looking at the numbers and things like that. And then ask them again, how much time they're spending, like how much time are you spending creating all this content? How much time are you spending interacting with the content? I talk about this in my own Facebook group, the Consistent Content Club, where how much time are you spending putting your content on LinkedIn and then never going in there and checking on it and never replying to comments and never commenting on other people's feed and staying active. So it's really a matter of focusing your time. And this goes for us as marketers too, because, we're always trying to help our clients and their strategies. And then, our marketing goes to the back burner. So again, not spreading yourself too thin and really being able to focus your time and energy to get results. Because when you're looking at, a profile that maybe had an Instagram post like once a month or something, someone's going to see that and not see that it's very active and probably not interact with it. So why even bother putting that content there when you can spend that energy and time on the profiles and the places that you are getting results and that you are spending more time on?
I love that. Great points, Amy. Oh my gosh, so smart. And so I guess one of the biggest questions, and the question for every social media manager and anybody who owns a company, is how do you create a social media strategy that aligns with your business goals and also helps you attract your ideal clients? Because I think that's a big struggle. And I think even some businesses aren't quite sure who their ideal clients even are. And like you said before, they feel like they have to be on every social media channel, which one tip I always give is if you don't want to be on Instagram and your ideal clients aren't on Instagram, create an Instagram account where you actually at least have your handle, but make a couple posts and say you can find our more content over here or go follow us over there. But what is some of your advice that when you're outlining a plan and kind of refreshing someone's strategy, how do you help make sure that their strategy aligns with those business goals and helps attract those ideal clients?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So most of my clients are already on Facebook. Like I find them on Facebook, we connect on Facebook, and they're already there. A lot of times they have a business page and they have a Facebook group, and they're trying to figure out how to get attention to their content on their Facebook business page, and then wanting to ultimately bring people into their Facebook group. And they're posting, photos and links and sharing things, and they're not getting the results that they want. And, the first thing that I say is, are you open to using live video? I know you're a huge fan of live video. We've got, my good friend Stephanie Liu, that she's, teaching everyone all the ropes about live video. And, it is a huge opportunity, because the way that I see it, there's really like two directions you can go with Facebook specifically. Is you can create an ad strategy and, create a funnel and go that route, or you can go the organic route and really leverage Facebook Live to create an audience, to increase your authority, and to to build community, really, to build an opportunity for them to come into your group, for example. So that strategy is where we align it with the business goals, right? And like you said, first and foremost, knowing your ideal client is like key. If a client comes to me and they aren't sure who their ideal client is, then we have to work through that before we even spend time on a real, robust social media strategy, because then, the messaging gets lost, where if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody kind of thing. And that's where you really have to hone in on who you're reaching before you actually start creating content. So a Facebook Live strategy, we talk about being, we're doing live video all the time. And I talk about how I used to not do live video or stand on stage because I was too afraid. But there's such a huge, especially organic opportunity for live video. And, the course that I have just teaches you how to connect with your strategic partners and to build an audience of your ideal clients that allows you to build your business in an organic way and make those connections that allows you to grow your business that aligns with the goals of your business, of course.
I love that, Amy. You're dropping knowledge bombs everywhere, and I absolutely love it because, I think many people are just, at different points, you can just be a little bit unsure, but making sure you have that core, understood of who your ideal clients are, what you're trying to do, your goals, all of that, and then you can work out your strategy toward that. Because if you don't know who your ideal client is, who you're trying to reach, then, like you said, it's almost like throwing spaghetti at the wall and just seeing what sticks. I think about that with my little daughter. That's the best thing I could think of. But yeah, so I love that so much. And another thing that you talk about and help people with, Amy, is consistency, because everyone has a message, everyone has knowledge they're trying to get across. But consistency, I think, is something that people struggle with and fail to understand. If you're not being consistent with your message, it can get lost and people will get confused on what exactly you do or offer. So what is some of your advice for making sure that your strategy is consistent and your messaging is consistent across the board?
Yeah, definitely. That's such a good question. Thank you. Actually, Capitalize Social Media, I came to that name, Capitalize, because it started with the acronym CAP, which stands for consistency and purpose. So with any kind of marketing, you really have to be consistent, because you've got to stay in front of your audience and allow them to see you, get to know you, and to remember you. And if you're not consistent, and there's two reasons for it, right? They're not consistent, they're not going to see you. But consistency comes from planning. And that's where the biggest opportunity is for a lot of the clients that come to me, is that if you plan your content in advance, then you are allowing that stress to kind of leave, and excuse me, and you're just allowing you to see more of a big picture perspective of kind of the plan that you want to have. Because consistency is, again, going to allow you to stay in front of your audience, and it's going to planning that consistency is going to take that stress off of you. So you don't have to think, the last thing you want to do is think, oh, what am I supposed to post next week? Or what am I supposed to post tomorrow? I know I'm supposed to do something. Having that in the back of your mind as a business owner, as a marketer, and having all of that in your head is going to throw you off to have that creativity for the rest of your business that's necessary, right? So having a plan, I have a content calendar that's built out for the whole month that has, the fun holidays and when you have launches and the different big milestones in the content that is run by monthly themes. So you have an outline basically of what content you want to create before you even get started. So there isn't that oh gosh, I have to post today. And, there's, that kind of worry, and that stress goes away when you're planning in advance, which brings the consistency and brings the stress level down.
I love that. Oh my gosh, Amy, you are just so smart, so brilliant. For anyone who's writing notes right now, you're basically mapping out a whole plan of how to strategize and plan out your business. And if you aren't, you probably should, because Amy is absolutely brilliant. With that said, Amy, I have a question when it comes to, and I'm sure this happens to, it depends on who is the business owner, executives, but trying to figure out what social channels they should post on or they should focus on. How how do you test that out? If there was a company that's like, okay, we've been going across, all the social channels, how do you know, and what is your best suggestion for them if they're just like, what really should I focus on when it comes to like one specific channel, and then like other channels can focus in and funnel into that one?
Yeah, good question. You pretty much nailed it at the beginning by saying test, because that's like my secret sauce, is that, you can guess, and you can, do your research to find out like where your ideal audience is really hanging out. And that ultimately that's where you want to spend your time, right? So being able to kind of start with a good idea of knowing your ideal audience is and hanging out in a certain platform, and then testing. So being able to create your content and optimize your profiles and get all of use all of the features, like on Instagram. I keep going back to Instagram. I think of all the new features that they have that have come up lately, but Facebook is the same, TikTok and all, LinkedIn, they've all got new features. Use all of the features and take advantage of those things. So Instagram and stories and reels and IGTV, use all them, test them out for like 3 months. Like have a plan, set it out, like I'm going to do this for 3 months, and then see where you're at. You might not have huge growth, especially if you're starting out brand new, but from an organic standpoint, you want to look at is what I'm doing working, and is kind of the, is your trajectory going up? And that's where you really want to look at. And then also decide, okay, if you're the one managing this, is it something that you like? Like, do I really like Instagram, or do I want to go over to LinkedIn, for example? But usually, as far as depending on what kind of business you have, if you're a consumer-based business or B2B, there's opportunities for both. Your messaging is probably going to be different though. And so sharing, the same or similar content might not be the exact right strategy depending on what kind of business that you own and what services that you offer. So knowing that, there's an opportunity to repurpose content. My favorite strategy is to start with Facebook Live, because if you're already there, that's the best way to get, increase your organic reach, and then being able to repurpose that content and use it on other channels that you're active on.
I love that. And we actually do that at Agorables, which is really exciting. But I love live video because it's your one way to have that direct conversation with anyone around the world, and and get that organic reach and everything else. And it's just always fun in itself anyway. And we've got such a great group of people here. So, and if you have any questions or comments or something you want to add to the conversation, please let us know in the comments, because we will pull it up on air and talk about it. And we always love highlighting you in the audience as well. And something I'm so excited to geek out with you about, Amy, and talk about is NLP. So first, I want you to break down what it is for those people that may not know what it is, and how you're utilizing NLP in your business right now, and maybe a few tips that you can help people kind of rethink conversations and how to have more deeper or meaningful conversations with maybe people in their life, or potential clients.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, neuro-linguistic programming, the tongue twister, because I get so excited talking about it. NLP is so amazing, and I was so lucky to go through Stephanie Liu's program, Captivate on Command, to learn all of these strategies. And basically, I mean, there's a lot to it. There's, and there's different levels too, because we're neuro-linguistic programming practitioners. We're also hypnotherapy practitioners, NLP coaches, timeline therapists. We're all of the broad spectrum of what NLP offers that Stephanie Liu teaches in her course, her 7-day course, which is so amazing. All the things I've integrated into, my own practice, as well as I help other people as well. So basically, by understanding what neuro-linguistic programming is, it's basically learning more about yourself and how you interact, like how you process information and how you, or present yourself in the world, but also in those interpersonal communication and interpersonal relationships, that you can really understand people at a whole deeper level just by listening. And it's amazing how, we have conversations and you really pay attention to how much, you're thinking about what you're going to say versus how much you're actually listening to what the other person is saying. And if you really pay close attention to what the other person is saying, for example, in a client conversation, this is where it becomes really crucial is and really helpful is when you're in a client conversation and really listening to the words. We call them presuppositions. Really listening to the words that your client, your potential client, is saying, to then be able to incorporate those words in that language basically into what you're going to explain to them basically. So it's really, really cool. And it basically just allows you to have that conversation kind of like on the same level from, some potential client that you have, potentially never met before. You're having your very first conversation, and you can really get to know them just by really tuning into the words that they use.
So I love that. And I think, which I'm sure you probably know this, can you break down like the 3 levels of listening? Because aren't there 3 different levels? Like I'm not sure. And maybe it's not NLP, maybe it's something else. But like you described was level 1, where you're like listening, but you're like doing other tasks or you're doing other things. But I forget what the second one was, but the third one is actually doing nothing but focusing in on that person and listening to what they're saying. So, and I think that's what you're getting at, Amy, which I think is so brilliant. And people focus so much or maybe stress about, I got to get the sale, instead of how am I going to help them find a solution. And I think that's the biggest mistake people make, with their client calls or even in their emails. They're focusing on themselves and the goals that they have to reach, rather than, okay, so this is a person with a problem. How can I help solve it? And maybe we aren't the solution, but I can help them navigate that solution or, that problem and find a solution. So I love everything you're saying. So I would love to know how else you have used NLP in your business to continue to thrive and exponentially grow, because I've even seen you post, Amy, that wow, you've, I don't know if you've doubled, the amount of clients you've had, but you've seen your business grow just from what you've learned in NLP. And I would love to hear more on how that's happened.
Yeah. I actually created a course. So I had been, during the time of COVID where, everything was kind of up in the air, I had a full client load. And then all of a sudden I had my 7-year-old at home. So that was like, okay, well, I've got to keep my clients up. I've got all these clients. I have, 2 team members that support me as well. So I've got to keep this going. And I have my son at home and trying to keep, homeschooling and breakfast, lunch, and dinner and all the things, and trying to figure out how to balance that. So, when I was thinking about all the clients that had really good success that I've had over the years, the ones that did the best were the ones that implemented the live video strategy that I helped them create. And that's when I said, okay, I need to create a course. I want to create a course where someone doesn't need to speak with me one-on-one all the time. They just can go through these lessons and basically would know with the support, in a Facebook group, they could learn how to do that themselves. And so I had the idea, and then, that was kind of over the summertime. And then I was like, okay, now how do I do this? Where do I even start? I don't even know what to do. And that's, I don't know how to create a course, but I know all this information that I can share. So again, persistence. I went through all my resources, tried to figure it out. And then I went through NLP. And at that point, after going through the week-long NLP course, I had just revelation after revelation of the different things, really getting to know myself more and how I work the best, but also even, fueling my persistence even more and getting through those places where you kind of feel stuck. And that's what helped me create my course in the matter of 2 months after that, and then filled it at the end of the year. So that NLP, it really, it helps you internally, but then it also helps you help other people if you want to as well. And that's what I do in the course as well.
Oh my gosh, Amy, I love that so much. And I think, seeing from you and other people that have gone through the NLP training, it truly is awesome. And I'm planning on trying to get that certification and go through that training myself as well, because I've seen the power of it and I already incorporate some parts of it in my life as well. But with that said, when it comes to, and you mentioned this just in your response, being stuck, I think, throughout the day or any day, people go through like different highs and lows. And, it can be sometimes for some people, it's a struggle, especially with the pandemic and things going on with businesses, or maybe their business is shut down. But how do you maintain, from the NLP perspective, a healthy mindset that no matter what is thrown your way, you always see that positive outlook? Or how does NLP teach you to kind of digest things in a way that it's just like, no matter what, we'll have a plan and we'll work it out?
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the key benefits for sure. I have a talk that I do about goal setting and I give this analogy, and everyone always loves it because you can relate. Like think about the last time you lost your keys. Like you're going when you needed to go somewhere in a fast, a quick turnaround, and you're looking for your keys. You're like, I gotta go. Where are my keys? Like, you're going to look like everywhere you can possibly look to find those keys, and you're not gonna stop until you find them, right? You're gonna look under the couch cushions. You're gonna look, you're gonna ask everybody in the household, have you seen my keys? Or did I drop them on the table? Did I put them in the refrigerator? Who knows? Like, right? You're gonna keep looking and looking and looking. And the key is that with you set a goal for yourself and your business, why don't we have that same level of like tenacity to be able to just go after it and reach that goal? It's because we get stuck, is that you hit a bump, you hit something that triggers you emotionally, and that makes you feel a certain way, that makes you, again, going back to kind of the uncomfortable feeling of like, you question yourself and you second guess yourself, and you're like, oh no, maybe this isn't the right thing, maybe I should just go back to get a 9-to-5 job, maybe this isn't the right path I should be taking, and then you stop and you don't keep going forward, and that's the point of that is just that NLP, that's what it does, is it helps you release like all of these like subconscious emotional triggers that you've had that you don't even really know that you have, that will get triggered every single time something similar to that happens in your life in the future. So I'm like really giving you like the deep and dirty like NLP stuff, but that's really what it is that our subconscious mind drives everything that we do. And when you're trying to reach a goal, when you're doing something, those things along that path get triggered. Going back to, if you don't have community, that you're not going to be able to get out of that yourself. You need to have those people around you, and it's so helpful. And it's really helps you, like not just like in your business, but like every aspect of your life, from communication to your business to just everyday interactions.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And these are such brilliant tips, Amy. Oh my gosh. If anyone has any questions regarding NLP or anything else, now's the time to ask them, because Amy is just sharing so much knowledge. Amy, you're so brilliant. You're so awesome. With that said, I know when it comes to being a business owner and an entrepreneur, you need several different, tools and apps. What are your go-to productivity tools and apps, whether it's like, a video editor where there's some good ones on your phone, or it's something on your desktop? What are your must-have things to keep your business afloat and to make you that much more efficient so you can do even more?
Yeah, well, okay, I'm not big into the techie stuff, and I'm not going to do anything like mind-blowing. So I'm sure there's people watching that have their tips and tools and things. Feel free to add those in so we can to share those as well, because I am really like basic when it cocomes to it. I mean, except for Agorapulse, and that's a staple. And you have to have Agorapulse to schedule your content. Like creation, as far as content creation, I'm very basic as far as like the tools, use Trello to stay organized. I use Canva. I love Canva. It has all sorts of, new features and things, and sharing abilities and things like that for my team, as well as, Wave.video is a sponsor of my live show, Coaches Go Social. And it's just a very robust, easy to use tool on desktop that I like to use as well. And there's really, I really use the most low tech, advanced tools as possible. So if something takes too long for me to figure out, I'm not going to use it, and I'm not going to advocate that for my clients. But I know that there is a lot of really neat tools out there, and I like to get recommendations from other people that have tools and things that they recommend too.
Awesome. I love it. So for anybody watching right now, if you want to share any tools that you're using, any recommendations for productivity apps or anything else, let us know. I think it's the Pomodoro method, which many people use, which I think is like 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. I'm not sure if that's exactly right. But that's so awesome, Amy. I love that. And I would love to know if there's one thing that you would do differently in your whole journey, or if you wish you knew back before you started your own company, what would it be? And what would that tip be for anyone else? That if you would do something differently, maybe they should consider that as well.
I don't know if it's anything differently, but this is something that I wanted to mention, kind of what we're talking about earlier, is that, when you start a business and you're an entrepreneur and you want to start a business, people say, I started my business because I didn't want to have a boss. Like I didn't want, someone, to have to report to or whatever. And it's such a funny thing to me because, I was a manager for a very long time and I loved it. And, there is opportunities that you can have when you're in that role to, be inspired and things like that. But when you are an entrepreneur and you start a business, you don't have a boss, you have clients, and your clients are basically all little bosses, is what I say. They are like, those are the people that you're accountable for, and two, to make sure that, you get the results and you deliver on time and that that they're happy with their services. And so I feel like that's, if you're going to go start a business, don't go into because you don't want to have a boss, because that's your clients are kind of that take that place. But what I do like about having my own business, and what I would encourage you to start your own business, if you want to be the visionary, if you want to be that person, this is what I love about entrepreneurship. You can be that person where, one day this is a service that you offer, and the next day you're like, okay, I'm going to add this service on. And I don't have to ask anybody. I just have to sell it. So that's really what the cool thing is, being the visionary of the business and being able to make those changes so fluidly that you don't have to ask someone, oh, I have this idea, can we do this? That would be, you'd have your boss or someone in that company that would have to be responsible for that. So that's the answer.
Oh my God, Amy, oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I love you. And I just have to say thank you so much for sharing all your advice and everything to everyone, to me today, to everyone else who's been watching. We've had a lot of people popping in. So I think you're absolutely brilliant. And with that said, we're going to have trivia, and something to tell everyone is we are going to be pausing Social Pulse Weekly at the moment, at least for the rest of this quarter, for the next couple of months. I'm working on 2 other secret projects that I can't really talk about right now, that are taking a little bit more of my time. So we're going to pause Social Pulse Weekly, but fingers crossed we come back and stronger than ever. But I'm so excited that we got to, experience this last episode at the moment with you, Amy. And for those that may not know, we started actually Social Pulse Weekly back at the end of August of 2019. I think it was August 31st to be exact. So we have a trivia question. Obviously, we have trivia at the end of every show, but this is just one question. And if there's a tiebreaker, we'll figure out, the results for that and how we're going to navigate that. But you can get a Gore Pulse hat or mug. But the question is, how many Social Pulse Weekly episodes have we had up until now? From August 2019, I believe it was August 31st, to now. So you'll probably have to take some time to think about it, calculate that, and we allow 24 hours for you to answer the question, so you don't have to answer right now. I know I would have to be doing some math right now as well, if that were me, trying to figure out how many weeks in a year. I took some time off, holidays, all of that. Think about that. How many Social Pulse Weekly episodes have we had up until this point? And I'm going to leave that be. And I see Megan also said she isn't moving. So Megan, I'm not sure where I heard that for some reason, because I know she went to Europe, I believe. But maybe I thought she was moving. So I'm not sure where I heard that from, Megan. But I'm glad that you're staying in sunny San Diego. So if I come out and visit when it gets better, I can do that. But with that said, so whoever answer below, and you can just do a number and you can just say trivia, since usually we do 2 questions. This is just one, but this is a whopper. This is going to make you think, how many Social Pulse Weekly episodes have we had so far up until this point? But with that said, Amy, where can people find you, follow you, do all of those fun things?
Yeah, I love Instagram and Facebook specifically, so definitely connect with me and follow me on both of those or either one of those platforms. Amy
Awesome.
Airom is really easy to find me anywhere. Amy Airom, that's my handle for all my platforms.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Amy, thank you so much for being on and just being the, kind of finale for this quarter. And we hope that you get to go to Paris sometime this year. If not, definitely next year. We'll make that happen. But cheers to you. Cheers to everyone. Make it an awesome weekend and an amazing rest of your Friday as well. For those watching across the pond, Trisha, I'm so glad you were able to join us. And we will see you hopefully back here on Social Pulse Weekly in a couple months. Bye, guys. Take care.